Hey, welcome back to a new Writers Lounge podcast. This is a Shed Talk episode where I just go on a bit of a rant about anything and everything in freestyle motocross. I'm your host for the show, Steve Sommerfeld, and this may sound different to other episodes. I don't know. I just opened up my audio recorder and there's quite a nice new update, and then they've added all these new presets and plugins and things like that. So I don't know if it's going to be better, but it kind of looks better to look at. That's the big stuff that's going on right now in my world. Building studios and getting excited about audio recording platforms on my laptop. Hopefully, actually, I don't have this laptop for much longer. At least it will just become the travel laptop, and maybe for the first time in 25 years, I might actually have a PC again. I'm in the middle of completely rebuilding the studio, if you haven't seen on Instagram or whatever. And in that, I will be putting in a new computer. And for like 20 years, I've been sponsored by Lakes Networking there in Australia. One of my best friends, actually, Jason Brown, over there in Perth, has sponsored me for so long, which has been fantastic, and it's been all laptops and mobile phones and the website and all that sort of stuff. And now I'm finally like, yeah, you know what? I think I actually have a place where it feels like I'm actually not home. This is definitely not home where I am in Germany. It is home, but it's not Australia. But I am sitting here for a long time. So I'm like, you know what? Let's get a good system, build out the studio, and set it up well. Actually, I'm just thinking the last time I had a computer was sometime at the start of when I went to university. So like 2003 or 4 might have been my last computer. And I remember taking it to a computer shop, and it cost that much to fix it. I just left it there. And in that, I didn't realize it at the time, all my photos and videos are on that computer. I never picked it up. So everything before 2004 is, it's gone. If mum didn't keep like a physical photo or a clipping from the newspaper or something like that, it kind of doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, there you go. So at the moment with the build, if anybody's interested in how the build is going, I am going really slowly because basically I'm learning on YouTube as I'm doing it. At this moment in time, I'm avoiding doing the second batch of insulation because it's so itchy. I'm so over it. So I'm basically covered up with a fox jacket. Got a nice pair of old goggles to cover my eyes. Nice Rothaus neck gaiter to stop it from flying in there. And yeah, I've got my safety flip-flops on. But yeah, I've built out like... I was just going to use kind of fishing wire, to be honest. The weird thing is, which I didn't realize at the start, with insulation, so I've got 40 millimeters of acoustic insulation. If you hold that away from the wall by 40 millimeters, the same size as the sheet of insulation, it almost doubles the effectiveness of the insulation, like how much sound goes through the insulation, hits the hard wall behind, bounces back into the insulation, and then into the microphone. That is the idea behind it. So I've now kind of built out little bits of timber that's 40 millimeters away from the wall. I've got the insulation there. Then I've created this air gap. I've made 2 bass traps so far, which is basically just having the insulation in the corners or all of the corners, which means there's not just 4 corners of a room. That's only the vertical corners. Then there's the horizontal on the ground, the horizontal on the roof. Oh man, I'm learning a lot about audio engineering right now, and you're starting to learn a little bit about it as I tell you. So, yeah, I'm kind of halfway in the insulation process right now. We've just had the Amazon Prime Day, so I've ordered a fair bit of new stuff. Still the new microphone I haven't bought. Luckily, there is a big shop about 45 minutes away from me where I get to test out all of these microphones and see which one is the best one. And that stuff, that's all for like the voice over work. That's not even for the podcasts and the videos. That is purely everything that I'm doing right now is to like get the most dead space where you can't hear anything. Right now, what I can hear the most in that room is the fluorescent tube humming away. And now that there's no echo in there, or almost no echo, you can just hear this goddamn fluoro tube. So I'll have to buy like an LED replacement for that. There you go. That is 6 minutes talking about audio. And I'm not an expert. Like I said, I'm learning about it on the fly, talking to one of my best friends in Australia, Ryan Wyatt from High Point Music. He has given me the rundown on the studio build, and he's like, man, he's like, if you want to burn money, he's like, just get a match and light it on fire, because that's about as good a job as you're going to do if you're trying to eliminate every bit of sound out of a studio. It'd be like trying to build a swimming pool with pieces of timber. He's like, there is always going to be leakage of some description, and sound will either leak in or out. And he's like, you can just burn money forever, so do it as cheaply as possible, which is kind of what I'm doing. All right, so this Shed Talk episode, what are we going to talk about? Freestyle Kings. Freestyle Kings, X Games, and a few things that have been popping up in the last 2 weeks. It has been insanely busy the last couple of weeks. With X Games, of course, we've done the X Games wrap up with Clint Esposito. There's been a lot of videos that came out. The results, they're already up. So if you haven't caught the results, I think it's probably the episode before this one. We've got all of that with Clint Esposito. If you want to watch it all, it's on his YouTube account. I think it's on Clint Esposito on YouTube, or maybe Two Wheels to Freedom. Either way, search for both of them, follow them. You will find it if you want to watch it. If you just want to listen like you are now, it's the previous episode. But the thing that I realized after all of that, you know, as it all settled down, I then watched the Dirt Shark edit, which was quite interesting. And actually, someone sent me something to look for, and I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. I'm not going to name names here. I opened it up, and there it is in Dirt Shark. And do you remember when Patrick Evans won the best whip competition? Absolutely killed it. Biggest whips we have ever seen. In not even just freestyle motocross, get that out of your head. In anything, in moto, whatever, free riding, supercross, this was the biggest whip ever. And as he went to celebrate, he binned it in front of everybody and on X Games and on TV. And it was like, well, you know what? The dude has skills. I mean, it was just funny that he binned it. Shit happens. I have done far worse. And for those who were there or those who remember, I think it was about 2005, came out at FMX Nationals on the Gold Coast, or King of the Coast, whichever one it was. Same comp, but just 6 months apart. And third gear wheelie in front of the crowd, and I forgot that I had broken off my front brake lever the day before. So I was wheeling along, went to drop the front wheel down and go into a nose wheelie, and no front brake lever. And I smashed the Red Bull sign so hard, I front flipped onto it, broke my fender off, threw it into the crowd, looked like an absolute goose, and then had to go do my run. So shit happens. Let's get it out of the way to start with. But it turns out on that Dirt Shark video, as Patrick rode past, actually Tyler Bereman grabbed his front brake lever. Oh, that was dirty. And then he was talking shit about the electric bike on the podium. Oh my god. That was a dirty move. So hopefully Patrick saw the funny side in it. I probably would have been a bit dirty on it for a little while, but it is what it is. Shit happens, and yeah, boys will be boys, I suppose. But another interesting part that came out of that was actually listening to Rob Adelberg's quick interview on there talking about the front flip Lazyboy that he did. And I mean, of course, Dirt Shark, that's Monster Energy. Jacko won Monster Energy. So it definitely focused on the win. And I'm not going to go out there and say it's a monster brouhaha. I'm just stating the facts. But I was pumped that Ash got the interview with Adelberg on here. And the one thing that really stood out was actually how he did the Lazyboy. And I don't know if this would improve the score, if the judges knew this going in, but it made me appreciate what Adelberg had done, how much he has thought about this trick to make it work, that he did it as perfectly as he did. Because as you know, when Adelberg does something, it's always perfect. So to get that Lazyboy as he did, he said, as he goes into the front flip, he grips the front wheel because it won't be spinning, and then he leans back into the biggest Lazyboy. That was the plan. This was the interview before he did it. He's like, I'm going to grab the front wheel because as you do the front flip, I guess you're grabbing front and back brakes, I guess, as much as you can to instigate that front flip. And so because it's not spinning, he reaches forward, like he slides forward on the seat, onto the tank, I'm guessing. So nutsack on the petrol cap, reaching down with his legs and his boots, gripping the front wheel, and then leaning back into the Lazyboy, and then doing the toughest sit-up or crunch to get back on for landing. That is impressive. I was just nerding out on the intricacy of how Adelberg did it. I didn't see that as he did it in the competition. I guess, why would I be looking for him to grab the front wheel? That's cool. So I'm going to say thanks to Adelberg for, giving the secret away. Not that anyone's really going to be running out there doing front flip Lazyboys anytime soon, but it's just cool to know. And he's so confident in it that he said that before the comp even happened. A rider that didn't make it, unfortunately, and I don't think we brought this up in the results, was Pat Bowden. Unfortunately, Pat couldn't get over there to America. There was a whole lot going on in the background. I will probably try and get Pat on for an interview, actually, to talk about this. I feel like this is his news to give, not mine. Yeah, just such a shame that he finally got that big invite, but couldn't get over to America for the comp. And Colby Raha, he put his video up. Now, I mean, speaking of trash talking and everything like that, have you guys seen all the memes that came out of the quarter pipe on Instagram, on YouTube? Colby had his background video going on, like behind the scenes stuff. That was funny as hell. So obviously there was a lot of shit getting thrown Colby's way that he's riding that electric bike. Oh my God. It was awesome. So guys, get on to YouTube, check out Dirt Shark's video, check out Colby Raha's video, and Moto Memes, of course. They've always got some good stuff on there. Now, the Freestyle Kings show that happened, I think it was only 1 week later. So Patrick Evans, Corey Creed, and Colby Raha then jumped on a flight, flew down to Perth in Australia for what became the biggest Freestyle Kings show ever. And it looked awesome. And the crazy thing is they did it inside the, I think it's called the RAC Arena in Perth. And yeah, man, the guys were back. And this time they did something which I've been wanting to plan for a long time at Night of the Jumps. We just never did it. And I'm so pumped the Freestyle Kings did it. And it worked. I was talking to Pat. I'm like, did this work? Like, did it look good? And he's like, yeah, it looked awesome. There was a quarter pipe at the end of the arena. So you've got the ramps going one direction, coming back the other. And in the middle of that, pressed up against the wall of the arena, was the full-size quarter pipe, which had all the big boys on it. And it looked awesome. Like from the video I saw, it looked great. But I was wondering what it was like inside the arena. And as Pat actually had a huge crash on the first night, he got to watch it. And he's like, he actually told me it looked gnarly watching it as a rider who would have been, well, he crashed. He was in the show, but he just didn't get to finish the show. Yeah, he said it looked awesome. And actually, I mean, the crash itself, this crash that Pat Bowden had at that show is insane. So as he came down, I think it was a turn down that he said, and he kind of drifted. He drifted across, and there was no room for the run out. So from the landing, it was 2 doors they had to ride through. And I didn't appreciate how crazy this was until I saw Lance Russell's video. But basically, Pat smashed the wall. He destroyed his bike, wrote the bike off, frame is snapped, blew a hole out the bottom of his engine, and luckily he didn't land with like his leg in the way. He would have snapped his leg or worse. And beside the wall was the fire hydrant. So if he had gone just 10 centimeters to the left, man, I don't know what would have happened to him, the bike worse than he did to the bike, or snapped this major fire hydrant. Oh God, it would have been insane. And again, I didn't realize how nuts this was. I feel like the next gen ramp they used, the quarter pipe they used in this show, pales in comparison to seeing what they had to ride out of. So as they landed, they had to filter through the doorway into the backstage, and there was a divider in the doorway. So 2 doors, a divider in there. So if you fucked up in any part, you were hitting something. And I feel like the riders deserve a lot more credit for that show, because that was tight. That was insane. And apart from Pat Bowden, everybody else got through there. But he did manage to get a bike. And this was something, I was talking to Pat yesterday, this was something that I really am going to throw it out there and say Perth or Western Australians are the best guys in the world to find a bike at a moment's notice. So he destroyed his bike the night before. Somebody turned up. They'd already got tickets to go to the show. They put the word out, we need a bike for Pat. This dude drove back home, picked up his YZ250, delivered it for Pat, and he got the second show done the next night or whenever it was. Maybe it was the same day. I can't remember. Anyway, second show, it was done. And I had the exact same feeling every time I went to Perth. I must have done 7 or 8 Narrogans. I can't remember how many Narrogans I did. Plus the coaching that I used to do. I did a show as well with Shuey at this enduro event where Shuey jumped like 250 foot. Man, I must have had to borrow a bike over there 15 times minimum. And every single time, somebody would come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, here's my bike. I'm like, that is awesome. So thank you. Round of applause to everybody over there in Perth or in WA who lets us use bikes. Fungi. I did a show for Fungi, and Muggins was like 16 years old at the time, maybe even younger. Man, I've been over to Perth a lot. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. But that wasn't... Why was I bringing up Freestyle Kings? Yeah, I guess it was for the quarter pipe and all that. Oh, yeah. And Clinton Moore. He's back. The runny ass himself from Bundaberg, who's kind of semi-retired, and the man who basically forced my hand into doing the backflip. I spent 4 years in his foam pit, and he's like, man, if you don't backflip today, like, you're not going in that foam pit again. And so I just went and backflipped. Thanks. He dusted off his helmet and he rode the Freestyle King show there. And the cool thing that I saw on that was him doing a Bundy and a 360 off of the next gen ramp. And the Bundy looked so nice, but actually the 360, he slowed that down so much. It looks like if he wanted to pull it, he could have pulled a 720 on that. And not like when he went for the 720 at X Games in 2012. I'm talking like the 360 style, do it twice, 720. That's how much time it looked like he had on that next gen. It looked unbelievable. So actually, speaking of 360s, moving on now, I actually am halfway through doing a voiceover, which is why I need this room over here finished. A voiceover for a 360 history video with Moto X Psycho. So if you've seen all of the Throwback Thursday videos that Clint Esposito and I have been doing on YouTube, we've been grabbing a lot of those videos actually from Moto X Psycho. And the guy actually lives in Berlin. I didn't realize this. He's actually somewhat close to me. So I need to get him tickets to come to Berlin this year. But he just puts all this footage together. He grabs it from anywhere and everywhere off the web, off social media. I don't know how he gets this footage. He puts it all together. I started scripting it. I started voicing it, and it actually sounded terrible. I didn't like it, so I cut it all. But once I finish this studio here, I will get that done. So hopefully you can find that on Moto X Psycho's channel on YouTube in the very near future. And actually, this is probably more getting to what I'm doing at the minute. Speaking of Clint Esposito, I was offered to do a hosting gig, a live streaming gig in Sweden for Motosurf. And that was supposed to be in 2 weeks' time. But unfortunately, I'll be commentating at the MotoGP in Silverstone for Monster Energy, which will have like Harry Bink, Bilko, Jacko, Andre Villa, Wanky, Andreu Laconda, Guy Adol Silva, Marcus Olsen, I'm guessing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Vicky Golden's coming back as well. I don't know. So I've got that gig on the same weekend I was asked to go to Sweden. I'm like, when it rains, it pours. Like, for so long, I didn't have that many hosting gigs, and now they're all coming through thick and fast. So I threw this one on to Clint Esposito. So he's going to fly over from America, and I got him the gig. And then he realized he didn't have a passport. It's not valid. So hopefully he can get that renewed and flying in the next week. So, yeah. Clint, you owe me, buddy. Can you get me a show over in America? That would be nice. And funnily enough, so in the last 2 weeks, it has been so busy. Out of nowhere, I have had 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty big show and competition proposals, or at least people who want to put on a big events. So, man, it feels like I've done nothing for so long since COVID. Everything was happening and then nothing has happened. And the last 2 weeks, I'm basically been in meetings the whole time, which is awesome. I don't believe anything until it actually happens. If I had a euro, a dollar, a peso, I don't know, krona for every show that was on offer, I would be a very rich man. And not that many happen. But let's see. It looks like there's a lot of events possibly coming up around the world. I'll keep you up to date if things actually move, but I'm in the process of signing some NDAs and MOUs and things like that. So I hope I've got some more news. And to be honest, most of them I'd prefer if they were the competitions, because that's kind of what I like doing. I like seeing progression and seeing FMX comps. Shows are awesome. You get to be creative. That is also cool. So let's see what happens. And you know what, guys? I'm going to kind of wrap this one up, because as I'm speaking about it, that I'm doing this podcast, I should really be doing that 360 video for Moto X Psycho. So I'm going to wrap this up, get back into all the long clothing in the middle of summer here, put my goggles on, and finish off the insulation and try and do a voiceover on the history of the 360. And guys, if you want to catch up with me at any of the shows coming up in the very near future, you can find me at July 26th to 28th, Monster Energy MXGP at the famous Lommel motocross track in Belgium. So that's next week. And funnily enough, I'm a little bit fucked on that one. My van has just shit the bed and the power steering is gone. It's in at the mechanic right now. He looked very nervous when I asked him I need to be on the road by Wednesday next week, driving to Belgium, and then I'll be going to England. I need my van because I'm taking Harry's bike, maybe even Sheeny's bike. I need my van. So if that's not fixed in 5 days' time, I don't know what I'm doing. I might have to buy a new van, which I did want to do, but I don't want to buy a new van under pressure. So let's see. So yeah, next weekend, July 26, 27, 28, Lommel, Belgium, Monster Energy, MXGP. From there, I'll be getting on a boat and going straight over to Yompton in England for July 31st. Squib Freestyle, back with the big month of shows in August, plus July 31st with Jamie Squibb. And then straight from there, back to Monster Energy. We're going to MotoGP, Silverstone in England. That is where I did my first Monster Energy show. And man, I'm so pumped. I've now done 3 shows. By then it will be my 5th show with Monster. So I'm pumped. I'm so stoked to be doing those. Finish up there, go straight back to Squibbies, and then we're jumping in the truck actually. We're going to drive north, like pretty high up in England, to Thornton-le-Dale for a Squib Freestyle show. I did that one last year. Nice little town. Awesome show. And just super chill. Actually, I had the best Yorkshire pudding of my life. The thing looked like a bread loaf. And if you don't know what a Yorkshire pudding is, then you're not either English, Australian, or probably Kiwis would eat it. I don't know. The colonies from England. Then we have that show. Well, actually, this is crazy. The very next day, we're going to be going back down to Oakhampton, which is close to where Squibby is there at Exeter. So we'll be covering some miles. I've got to talk in miles now because that's England. Then we've got a week off. And then it's Squib Freestyle at Ashburn. I'm not English. I don't know how to pronounce these names. In England on August 17. So if you're at Ashburn, see you there. And then August 21, 22, I'm going to a new country. I think it's actually a country. I'm going to have to check this out on Wikipedia. Is Guernsey its own country, or is it just an island that's part of... I don't think it's part of Great Britain because they're not under their rules, but the king is the head of state. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure that one out before I fuck up on the microphone there. So that's going to be awesome for me. I've never been to Guernsey. We'll be jumping on a ferry and traveling on over there. So should be a good bit of fun. Then August 25, Squib Freestyle at Cruise Culture in Carmarthen in Wales. Carmarthen? Man, these English names suck. And then I get to finally leave England and go back to mainland Europe. We've got Night of the Jumps, the World Tour. The 3rd round will be in Zurich, Switzerland, September 7. That will be big. Followed by October 5th, the fourth round of the tour in Berlin, Germany. And that is the hometown event for Night of the Jumps. 24 years they've been doing Night of the Jumps. I watched this stuff in Australia. It started, it came from Berlin. I think the first event was in Riesa in Germany. And then October 9, only 2 weeks later, will be the sixth and final event for now, but there may be more events coming up in November and December. Let's see. But for now, the sixth and final event will be in Hanover, Germany at Night of the Jumps. And then November 23, the day before my wife's birthday. Again, I'm going to miss her birthday. I'm already in trouble. This is the third year running. I'll be back at King of the Whip, Johannesburg, South Africa. So guys, if you are around any of those shows, come say good day. Come to the show. I'd love to see you guys there. That's 30 minutes of absolute nonsense. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to another Shed Talk episode. I'm going to start work for the day. Something like that. It's only 3 in the afternoon. I'm going to start work. Finish off this studio, or at least the voiceover part. And I guess the next time you'll see me, I'll be at Monster Energy MXGP. Lommel. Oh, whoa. You know what? I'm going to leave this for when I talk about Shed Talk next time. I have been to Lommel once before, and it was dumb, but I did it. I rode it. I have ridden Lommel. Catch you later.